All right, in this video, I'm going to express an opinion that may be unpopular, but I'm gonna do it anyway because it's what I believe and I think it's true. Here's the opinion that rental regulations that are designed to help tenants are actually making things worse for tenants. Now, I'm not saying we need to get rid of rental regulations entirely, but what I am saying is that the laws that are supposed to protect the tenants are actually hurting those tenants, actually making it harder for people to get housing than it is making it easier. It's making housing more expensive, less affordable, and it's inspiring housing providers to either exit completely or never take a risk on anybody under any circumstances. Here's the truth. The harder it is to evict a tenant, the less likely a housing provider will take any kind of risk on a questionable applicant. If it's easy to evict someone, you can take risks on people. So if people present with lower income, lower credit, something shaky on their application, say, well, I'm not real comfortable renting to you given this credit score and this income, whatever the situation is. And I say, I understand I can pay last month's rent up front plus a security deposit, but unfortunately, because the city has taken away that ability to negotiate that, unfortunately, I'm not allowed to take a higher deposit to offset this risky application. So unfortunately for you, tenant, I have to decline this application and you are no longer able to qualify for housing. And when these regulations start to pile up, mom and pop landlords, like people who have maybe one or two rental properties and probably live in the same community that they own these investments and are actually care about this community and this city, it stops making sense for them. They're not making money, they're losing money. So what do? They sell. And when the smaller time investors, the mom and pop investors leave, who's left? Corporate, big investors. Housing providers, they don't care about the community, they don't care about the people, and they honestly, they're just gonna do everything by the book. They're gonna have fewer options, and the people who get affected the most by this are the most vulnerable populations, the lowest income, people with shaky credit, with backgrounds, whatever had happened in their life that created a situation where they have a lower credit, they have a lower income. No one's able to offset the risk of working with them, so nobody does. So let's talk about Tacoma specifically, because in the recent past, Tacoma has become one of the worst places to invest in Washington. And it's all because of the rental regulations that have been imposed there. Literally, investors are just exiting. They don't want to invest there anymore. There's three things that really make it difficult to invest in Tacoma. One is they've capped the move-in costs. So you cannot collect more than 1 month's rent security deposit, and you cannot collect last month's rent up front. So when somebody goes to move into a place in Tacoma, the most you can charge is 1 month's rent security deposit plus their prorated rent for when they're moving in. Okay, so if the rent is $2,000 a month and they are moving in the 15, exactly halfway, that's $3,000 that they'll need to move in. And then the second regulation is if the tenant asks to break up their move-in costs into 3 payments, the housing provider is obligated to say yes. So now that $3,000 just got divided into 6 equal payments is $500. So this person can move in with $500 out of pocket. That's relatively low risk for them. And so you can see from a housing provider, you're not going to take a risk on somebody with a lower credit score than maybe you'd want or a lower income than maybe you'd like, because they're only out of pocket $500. And once they're in, if they stop paying, the process of evicting them takes anywhere from 6 to 9 months. On top of all of that, in Tacoma, if you want to raise a rent or renew a lease, it requires 4 separate notices that have to be delivered in person and mailed via certified mail. So you have to print out some papers, drive it to the place, post it on the door, and then mail it via certified mail 4 separate times, all just to raise the rent $100, $50. It's insane. So you can see why people are just you know what? I will invest my money somewhere else. Another example of these regulations that they're trying to do something good, but they ultimately cause more of the same problems that they're trying to solve, are just cause eviction ordinances. Okay, so the idea is to stop landlords from just terminating leases with tenants without like a cause that the government has decided is legitimate based off of their opinion. So it sounds good, like, okay, landlord just can't say, okay, you have to move out because I said so. I guess, even though it's their property, the government's saying you can't do that. But what actually happens is, because of these increased regulations, no landlord is going to offer month-to-month leases. So it forces everyone into a fixed-term lease, because on a fixed-term lease, you have 12 just causes, whereas on a month-to-month, you have like 2. So the landlord's not just gonna hand over those limited rights that they have left. So that forces everyone into a fixed term, which offers no flexibility. So if I'm the tenant and I know that I'm looking for a new job and I'm applying all over the country, I don't know where I'm going to be living. I know I'll probably get a job somewhere else, but my landlord is now saying, nope, you have to renew for another year. And I can say, cool, can I just go month to month? And they say, sorry, no. Or the other one that happens all the time, tenant says, we're going to be buying a house. We're currently shopping to buy a house, and we go on a month-to-month lease so that when we buy a house, we can, move into it. And the landlord says, sorry, no. The city has made it so that month-to-month leases make 0 cents. I can't offer that. So it's actually hurting tenants' ability to be flexible with jobs and other housing options. Number 2 is, if you're living in a multifamily and one of your tenants one of your neighbors is very disorderly, maybe very loud, causes problems all the time, and all the neighbors are complaining about this one individual, if that individual is consistently paying their rent, the landlord cannot get them out of the property. There's just no way to get them out. If you try to evict them, it doesn't work, and you can't just end their lease like you used to be able to. You have to give a reason, one of the just cause reasons, and if there isn't one, then that person can just continue living there, terrorizing their neighbors. So it's actually hurting the neighbors that are living there. Just gives everybody less options and less flexibility. So the bottom line is that these regulations, while they're well-intentioned, often create more of the problems that they're trying to solve. And if governments or individuals actually want to improve the situation, they should reduce the regulations and make it easier to evict tenants so that landlords can take higher risk on the most vulnerable populations.